Hello, everybody, and welcome to Finley's How to Start Your Small Business in 7 Days webinar. This is part 2 of our Start Your Own Small Business series. In part 1, we went over how to know when you've found a viable business idea. If you're interested, you can find it on our YouTube channel. I'll send a link out to everyone here later today. Today, we're going to cover everything an aspiring entrepreneur needs to know to get their business up and running, from ideating to getting a business license to amplifying your business through various platforms. Before we get started, if you have any questions at any point during this webinar, please feel free to send it in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. We will get as many of those questions answered live as possible, but in case we don't get to your question, don't worry. We will send you an email with a detailed response, so ask away. And now, without further ado, let's introduce our speaker, a small business expert and overall business powerhouse, Lori Shao. Lori is going to introduce herself and dive straight into the material. Lori, take it away.
Sure. Thanks for having me. So I have been in financial services and working specifically with small businesses for the past 17, almost 18 years. And I absolutely love the 17-year journey because I had the privilege of really understanding the pain points, really understanding and hearing the stories of the why, and really getting to know the who. I think the combination of that is just absolutely inspiring, and that is what led to Finley today. Us finding Finley, building Finley, the platform to serve the small business community, with the sole purpose of financially lifting communities, because we really truly believe that small businesses is the backbone of every single community, and that we are here and we're better today and tomorrow and onward because of all the small business owners out there grueling away every single day, doing their absolute best to achieve a better tomorrow for themselves, their families, and all of us. So the topic that we're going to cover today is how to start your business in 7 days. And I am a firm believer that those with passion, those with an American dream to pursue, those with the aspiration to solve the world's biggest and smallest problems through their work, are the ones that are going to change the world for good. And so that pretty much captures the essence of small business and aspiring entrepreneurs. But before anyone becomes a business, or starts a business, they are dreamers, right? And so the segment for today is to really help all of those dreamers, all of those who have decided on an idea, and to partake on that journey. They've already made the decision that they're going to get into business for themselves. But how do you actually do it, right? To come up with ideas, I think many of us come up with ideas, but it is actually executing on those ideas, making those ideas into reality, is what starting a business is all about. Yeah. So we're gonna go through the day in the life of day one for the aspiring entrepreneur getting into business, figuring out what your business is. Day 2 through 4 is really to legitimize your business. Day 5 to 7 is to really focus on distribution and amplification, because frankly, if you are not providing something that people need, then you kind of don't have a business, right? If you can't get customers and get paid for it. Yep. So for day 1, to figure out what you are selling, I think is pretty important, right? Whether you're selling a product or a service, it's something that you are testing. You could be a dog walker in your community. You could convert your home kitchen to a food kitchen and make dumplings and sell them to your customers. You can go online and have conversations in Spanish, right? And then be charged for it and have customers in Spanish conversation. There are so many different avenues that's available to all of us, because deep down, we're all talented beings. There are exposures and experiences that we were fortunate enough to consume through the years that it's actually worthwhile and valuable to others. So to identify what service and product and specifically what value you're trying to deliver to the world, that's first and foremost. Know who you're selling to. Is there a market for it? I've always said for you to decide on whether or not you should go into business for yourself is really to think about what the problem is. Why are you uniquely positioned to solve for this problem? And is this the right time? And so to know who you're selling to really falls in the category of, is this the right time? Is the market ready for your solution? And so how are you gonna uncover that is by talk to as many prospective customers as you can. Talk to existing business owners that are in complementary or parallel space, and to understand how challenging it is for them to acquire customers, to deliver value to their customers. Talk to industry experts. There are many professionals out there, whether it's the bookkeeper or the local law firm, right? They work with businesses in every single vertical, and they might have very valuable feedback for you as far as, is this a viable option to pursue, and more specifically, do you have a customer base that you can position your solution to, and know how much you're selling it for. Because at the end of the day, we are looking to set up a for-profit business, right? Otherwise, you would be a not-for-profit. And so by forming a for-profit business, whether you are a solopreneur, one woman or one-man shop, or you're aspiring to grow to IPO status, you still need to know what you're selling, who you're selling to, and how much you're selling it for, right? That price point, I think, is absolutely important. But that price point, just have an idea of the business model. You don't have to be too firm on that. And I say this because at Finley, the third category of know how much you're selling for is something that we are working on and towards every single day, right? We've changed our pricing models, we've changed our business models, and it's all normal because you're getting feedback on an ongoing basis and you're iterating on what your business model should be, and how much you would be charging for. Now, days 2 through 4 is super fun. It's so day 2, you'll decide on the name of your business, right? You think, oh, before I started my business, I should actually come up with the name of this. Not so much, because you'd be surprised how many businesses out there rebrand and rename themselves, right? You pick a name, you go for it. Don't let it handicap you, right? Don't let it freeze you in space and in place, and prohibit you from advancing your idea and realizing your idea and building out your business. Because if we sit on, is this business name going to be the one that I'm going to use 10 years, 20 years, 30 years later, that is too much pressure for you. And it is really difficult to pinpoint. So pick a name that you think is relevant to what you do. Really think about who you're selling this to, what type of product you're selling for, and then tying that with something that is personal, right? So finding a name for yourself, whether you use your name in it, whether you use your favorite animal or food or vegetable, there's a lot out there, right? Cabbage and so forth. Find something that's interesting to you and just move on, and be open to the fact that you could always come back to it and rebrand, right? Once your business takes off and you feel like, hey, it doesn't sound that right. Or as your business continue to evolve and you're pivoting. So today you might be direct to consumer products, but tomorrow you might be direct to business software, right? And that could very well happen. And so the name and the look and feel that you have for when you started your business may not make sense after you've pivoted and multiple times. So just keep an open mind to that. It is very important for you to make sure you do your research in your respective city and county on what type of legal filing you need to have in place. In some places, If you are a sole proprietor and you have your full name and your business name, you actually don't have to file for your fictitious name fictitious name filing, because that would satisfy you from the legal perspective. But then if you want to operate a business, whether it is online or in person or in your house, you still need a business license, right? In almost every single city that we have worked with. And so definitely do your research and understand the time frame it takes for you to start the implementation process and when you expect to obtain the appropriate license and documentation. But that doesn't mean you cannot start planning and pulling all the data points and resources together for you to get started, right? Day 3 is to claim your domain. I think at this point, we all recognize that regardless what the new normal would look like, the new normal should always, and will most likely continue to involve online presence, right? Whether you want to get online immediately or not, still reserve and claim your domain. Because if you, let's say, grew your small business from 0 to like $100 million operations, by that time, I would think you would want some online presence. And then by that time, if you didn't claim your domain in a reasonable manner, you will most likely pay more than you expect to get that domain back. So these are all kind of almost foundational work that you can or you should put in place for you to really think about getting the right infrastructure in place to start your business. Building the landing page is all very important. So this is for those who opt to go online first. And it's important to think about this because we have been conditioned to think like if you open a small business, if you're a small business owner, you really do have to have a brick and mortar. You have to have something that's tangible. And the reality is it doesn't have to be the case anymore. And so by having your brick and mortar in a virtual space, it could, not even could, it definitely will save you the initial capital or the initial investment expectation. Just from not needing to secure a lease, not putting up a collateral for the lease, not signing a contract that locks you in for X months in a physical location, not having to think about tenants and improvements, not having to hire an employee to manage that space, or contractors to build out that space, and actual collateral in print and to help you promote this space. That is a lot of money saved out of the gate, right? So and then we'll talk about it later, but to have a landing page, I think it's a smart way to go about it. And there are many platforms out there that will give you a landing page for free, right? It will give you an opportunity to legitimize, right, your business, your idea. It's actually something that people can see and read about and understand. Okay. And then for day 4, to create a list of service providers you need to engage with. It really does depend on what you're selling and what your business model is. But across the board, you should figure out or have some sort of an idea how you're going to handle the accounting and bookkeeping, right? Because expenses out, revenue in, all of the numbers that you need to have in place, at least a minimal from a budgeting perspective, you should have a sense of how much something is going to cost, whether it's a service, whether it's a product, for you to really drill down and have a good understanding of your unit economics. Because if you don't know how much things is going to cost, then it's going to be hard for you to figure out what your margins are. And it's going to be hard to figure out how much you should budget. And then it's going to be hard to figure out how much you should allocate for expenses. Right? There's and then project your future state growth numbers and match that with the investment that you will make from either ads or marketing or any type of additional development. So to have a good understanding of what your numbers what your numbers are and where you are right now with regards to the numbers, I think is important. Now, the legal aspect, I think it's something that technology and just innovation definitely made it very easy for us. So first and foremost, to file for any type of licensing, a fictitious name, and even your corporation or LLCs, you can do it directly online, right? It's very transparent, it's very easy. You just have to have the right information or the appropriate information, and you can do it yourself. And if you don't want to do it yourself, there are plenty of platforms out there like LegalZoom, et cetera, to just help you get there, facilitate the onboarding and the delivery and and the ongoing management of your compliance and business documentation. I think that's something for you to really keep in mind, that yes, you have to have in place, but there are a lot of tools out there that can lift some of that burden or almost all of the burden off your shoulders. So day 5 to 7, distribution and amplification. This is where I alluded to earlier, where pretty much day 1 through 4 is really about the foundational work, right? Is bringing your idea to life. But your idea coming to life, it doesn't mean it's a business. It just means now the idea is no longer just something in your brain, right? It can be felt, it could be seen, it could be understood. But before you actually sell it and find customers who find it valuable, you really don't have a business, right? So 5 to 7, distribution and amplification, is the kind of the last mile to legitimize the end-to-end starting up a business experience. So day 5, claim your social media handles and start posting. One of the things that I regret most, if I look back on Finley, is I didn't start social media and content writing sooner, right? And I feel like it really did hurt us, because customers, people, whether your customers are individuals or they're small businesses or they're businesses, they all want to feel that you are a credible service provider, right? So they will look you up. The first thing that we do when we explore a service provider, when we buy something, is I will just Google the company. I will see that they have followers. I will go and see that they have postings and that they are thought leaders and that they know what they're doing, right? All of that brings me comfort. So on the flip side, put stuff in place for your customers and prospective customers to feel comfortable with what you do, who you are, and what your brand and your messaging is. I think I just cannot even eloquently describe how much I would give if we can turn back time for us to really up our social media and content game, if I had the opportunity. And of course, it does help every other way you look at it, other than on top of getting credibility with your customer base. It also, with the content that you deliver, make sure that it's search engine optimized. As Google indexes these content, you will be ranked higher. You will be searchable. You will be able to find your customers or have your customers find you organically. Think about the money that you would save, the cost, the time that you would save in promoting and marketing your business. But all of that takes time, right? It's like it's the seed that you need to plant from the get-go, I would say. Day 6, send your business descriptions to your family and community to gauge interest. I think that it's to be determined on if it should fall on day 6 or day 0, right? Because at the end of the day, you want to know if your business idea is a viable idea. And how do you know if it's a viable idea? And we cover that in our last session. Is you are building something that you feel passionately about, and most importantly, as relates to starting a business, is you building something, whether it's a product or a service that people need, right? You have to have an audience to build it for, and we talked about earlier. But are you a vitamin or are you a painkiller? And you want to be the painkiller. You could be an icing on top. You could just be an ancillary tool to help with minor improvement. But if you're going to sacrifice and leap into entrepreneurial world and start a business, and knowing all the sacrifices and the risk that you're taking, the likelihood of succeed is far realized if you can build something and deliver something to the community that they absolutely need. And how are you going to know that if you don't talk to people, right? You go and talk to people, you get feedback, whether it's family and friends. I remember when I first created the mobile software, I shared it with my mom, my mother-in-law, and just like, very senior people that I know, because I know that they're really reluctant to embrace technology, right? And so if I can deliver something to somebody I know who is probably not going to be the ideal customer, and they actually understood what I'm trying to do and they're able to use it, then I think is a win, right? So there's, really depends on what you're positioning and how you're positioning it. Those who are around you are, solicit them and reach out to them for their most candid feedback. And that's, you need somebody to kind of keep it real with you. And then day 7, manage fulfillment, make sure you can deliver what you have sold, processing, the selling, the feedback, and everything else along the way. I think it's absolutely important because you need to amplify. If what you've sold people like, then ask them for referrals. If what you sold people realize that they need, then amplify that impact, right? At the end of the day, you want to take in all of the feedback, all of the learnings, and you want to convert that and transform that to the message that you want to deliver to the world on how what you have created is going to help more people. And you want to target the people that you have built this for, and you want to amplify that message, and you want to drill it home to them that this is something that they absolutely need. So I guess all of this is to say that anyone can build and run a legitimate and scalable business. Because I mentioned earlier that we truly, truly believe that those with passion can change the world. And oftentimes those with passion just need a little bit guidance, a little bit support, and some tools that's affordable, right? Because to get into, take this first step to become a business owner is extremely hard. And it takes somebody who is extremely courageous, and somebody who is selfless, and somebody is fully aware of the sacrifice to actually take this leap of faith in themselves. And so, it's anyone can do it. You just have to have passion, you just have to have guidance, and you just have to have the perseverance, because the world will get tough. There will be challenges, you will take detours. But at the end of the day, if you have a goal in sight, you still march towards the right direction.
Larry, that was so incredibly informative. Starting a business or starting a small business really isn't as complicated as it sometimes can seem to be. All right, let's take some questions from the audience. Our first question is a good one. How much capital should I have saved up in order to safely start a business?
Yeah, I think that is the answer to that. It really depends on your current situation. So for me, there was a lot on the line, right? I had 2 young kids. My husband was self-employed, and so for me to leave my corporate job with steady income, it was a sacrifice on its own, right? Because there's a lot. The overhead is different than maybe years ago when I was just fresh out of college and I want to go into business for myself, where my life was my own, and the sacrifices I make, it just determines whether or not I eat a fancy meal or ramen noodles, right? And so it's a personal decision. And so I would say the rule of thumb is if you can save for 6 months of no income and still be able to live um, comfortably, and then you define what comfortably is to you, then it's it should be a green light for you to proceed.
That's good to know.
Mhm.
And let's see, we touched upon this one a little bit earlier on, but let's go into a little bit more detail. Do I need a physical location to start a business? In this day and age, can I run my business completely out of a digital storefront?
Absolutely, yes. And we've seen many businesses who had a brick and mortar and migrated to 100% digital. COVID had a lot to do with it. But once they migrated to digital, they realized, my goodness, it's so much easier, right? I get to pick and choose my time. I get to now reach a wider audience. I'm not limited to customers that's within a driving distance from my brick and mortar. I don't have all this um, rent and electricity and every other type of payment out there that's related to a brick and mortar. I can actually have very flexible hours. Like if I am available on the weekends, then I will make my services available on the weekend. If I want to capture a wider audience to folks in different time zones, I can just, if I'm willing to wake up earlier or sleep later, I can actually provide my services and be able to reach anyone, anywhere, and be able to provide my services to anyone, anywhere, and collect in the most frictionless way. That is what virtual store or just an online presence can do for you, right? It really breaks down the walls, the barriers that you have. People, if you are if you're running a business out of your garage, you're teaching yoga out of your garage, you can now compete for the same customers as a fancy Beverly Hills yoga studio that spent $3 million on their brick and mortar to make it like the fanciest out there, right? You can actually reach that audience and you can actually succeed, right? You can excel. You can you can reach so much higher. The sky's the limit for you by migrating from a brick and mortar to online. One of the trends that we've seen is those who have a brick and mortar, they experience online and they actually want to keep it. They want to keep it on an ongoing basis. So we believe that is what a new normal would represent. It's a hybrid model, right? Because you still, you're a part of the community. You're brick and mortar. You're comfortable with the students that come in. Continue with that. But for those that come in off hours, for those that have moved to a different city or state and they can no longer be your customers, but you can still reach them through virtual, right? So that is an opportunity for many business owners to widen the scope of their customer reach and increase revenue and identify new areas where they can make additional sales. Mhm.
Awesome. And folks, we have time for one last question. When do you know when it's time to scale your business?
When it's time to scale your business is when, because scaling your business can mean multiple things, right? Scaling your business could be spending more money on acquiring more customers. It could be adding employees. It could be um, uh, investing in more inventory, right? There's many definitions of scaling your business. But the rule of thumb on when you're ready to actually make a change in any through any channel is if you are, so busy with sales that you cannot take on any more sales. That should translate to you hiring for help. That should translate you to spending more money in automating certain processes. That should translate you to now reserving more inventory because you know that you're going to have more sales and consistent sales. So you need to allocate and be ready for it. So I would say there's definitely opportunities to scale. And you know that when you are in a situation where you cannot take on any more business because you are stretched too thin.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time and expertise, Lori. And
Pleasure.
That's all the time we have. Don't worry if we didn't get to your question. Check your email inbox soon. Our panel of small business experts is working to get you an answer. And that goes for everybody else here in the audience. If at any point in the future you have any question related to running your small business, feel free to send it to our panel of small business experts at finley.com/learn. They usually respond within 24 hours. If you'd like to just keep up with what Finley's doing, follow us on our socials: Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, TikTok. Our handle for all of these platforms is at I am Finley. We do have a webinar coming up July 29th, which is a Thursday from 12 to 12:30 p.m. And that one's going to cover what every small business needs to be successful. And as always, if you have any feedback or questions, or you just want to chat, send a message to info@finley.com. Thank you all so much for coming. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and we will see you at our next webinar. Until next time, see ya. Thanks, Lori.